Ladies and gentlemen of YouTubes, this is Tum Tum, the Grumpy Car Guy, taking another look at this 2016 Hyundai Veloster Turbo that I affectionately call my little go-kart jelly bean. Got another unboxing video. We're going to be taking a look at that little booger right there. I picked up an intake for this, for lack of a better word, super budget build. If you can even call it a build, more like a collection of parts that I'm finding on random websites to throw onto this thing. If you tuned into any of the other videos, this is the definition of doing everything on a low budget. Not a lot of disposable income to put into this thing, so it's following suit with this little box of added engine noise that we're going to be unboxing here shortly. As it stands right now, got the exhaust bolted on. That video is coming soon, honestly. For a $300 stainless steel mandrel bent, essentially glass pack exhaust, this thing sounds phenomenal. I'm thoroughly impressed. I've never been one to be able to justify spending a boatload of money on any sort of exhaust, much less anything that is remotely close to a I don't want to call it custom, but they're necessarily like fancy ones. I have a titanium flux capacitor with V bands from Qui-Gon Jinn and whatever else you want to call it. It just, for something as simple as an exhaust, I mean, it's a glorified air pump under that hood, and all you're doing is looking at getting air out as quickly as possible. I don't really care. Sound is the only thing that I'm concerned with outside of moving air. So that's what that little box is for, and that's what the exhaust is on there for. I think it sounds phenomenal. It is just a standard glass pack setup, but cat back, $300 shipped. That's unheard of, and quality is mighty fine as well. So anyways, we're gonna jump into this this unboxing here. So AF Dynamic, I guess, is the name of the company, which tells you how much research I've done with this thing. I saw an intake for not a lot of money and said, hey, let's go ahead and roll the dice here. So we'll jump into it. I've already cut the tape because last video I spent a lot of time kind of fumbling around with taking packaging out and all that crap, so I did cut the tape. But nonetheless, this is all new to me, so whatever I see is what you guys are going to be seeing. Airflow Dynamic, not AF Dynamic, as or Airflow Dynamic. May have subbed out that that uppercase I for an L, or at least throwing something in there that let it make it look like Airflow Dynamic. Nonetheless, honestly, pretty decent box. I mean, for the amount of money that I spent on this thing, $160 if I remember correctly. I was fully expecting for it to come in, a USPS, if it fits, it ships kind of box, but no, we get everything here. So first panel open, and first look, I'll go ahead and say decent packaging. No red flags or anything like that. It sectioned off. Okay, all right, cool deal. Some instructions, and it looks like a packing list, a sticker for that added horsepower, little diagram of the intake, if y'all can see that. It says 1.6 liter turbo inline 4 Hyundai Veloster, so according to the instructions, it's the right stuff. Some insulation. That's actually a pleasant little surprise. Huh. we'll see how that comes into play. I'll do my best to get a install video on there. I haven't done one in general for really any vehicle, so if I can get creative enough to put one together, then y'all see where that comes in. If nothing else, kind of cool little surprise, we'll say. If it honestly, if I'm as pleasantly surprised by this intake as I was by the exhaust, I think I'm gonna like how this ends up with the heat wrap. I didn't expect this. It's a minor thing. Technically, with any intake that's going on in any car, unless it's truly routed to where cold or cool or fresh, however you want to call it, based on of a preference of term, it's going to pull in warm air from the engine bay. This thing does have some ducting to get it as cool as possible as far as intake temp is concerned, but you're still talking about a air source from within an engine bay with a turbo that's not too far away. It could get hot, so this installation is kind of promising. That's pretty cool. Excuse me, my other phone is going off. There we go. All right, now paper. Okay. Well, that. All right. So, from I don't know if you guys can see it that well. Let's go ahead and open it up here. So, what this is a recirc hose. This vehicle has a diverter valve as opposed to a blow-off valve. I'm assuming that this silicone hose, check that out. I'm assuming the silicone hose is related to the diverter valve, as opposed to it just blowing off the boost into the atmosphere. Diverter valve recirculates it. It's also, I guess, sometimes considered a recirculation blow-off valve or just recirculation valve. Nonetheless, it brings it back into the intake stream. So I believe that's where that little booger comes in. This is weather stripping, for lack of a better word, but this is going to go on top of the air box, if you will. Not necessarily an air box, but a divider where the air filter sits. Assuming that's where that heat shroud slash reflective material. I'm assuming that's where it comes into play. It's probably going to go somewhere in or around the divider or the wall or the box. So pretty rigid, just snap over design, and not cracked or not a stiff seal. Yeah, I think that'll work just fine. We got some other bits and pieces in here. An adapter from, I'm assuming, intake hose to throttle body. I'm going to pull all this stuff out so we can look at everything. No, there's the entire gasket. I'll show you how that works when on the install video. I think I'm pretty much committed to doing it now. A bracket of some sort. Either a very durable feeling paint, or that's powder coat. Yeah, that's a powder coating. Wow, that's pretty solid. Very cool. Stamping of some sort. Relevant to a part number, I'm assuming, but a bracket nonetheless. And an assortment of hose clamps for the adapter, the silicone hose adapter, and I'm assuming the filter as well. More hose clamps. That, I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is the adapter for this hose. And that's going to probably mate up to a similar or plastic hose already on the vehicle. And other bits and pieces in here. Miscellaneous hardware. And another bracket. Powder coated as well. It feels like good quality powder coating. It has a rough finish to it. Textured, not rough. Textured, we'll say. Pleasantly surprised so far. Nothing else in that bag. And the important bit. So if you're watching this video, you probably already understand what the purpose of a intake is. But for those of you that are curious or simply want to listen to me ramble, the purpose of an intake, aside from getting air into the engine, and in some cases lowering intake temperatures. This is where that whole cold air intake thing comes from. Typically with a short ram, it's a warm air intake. Sounds ridiculous, but it's the truth. You're going to pull in warm air. Nonetheless, the purpose of the intake is to smooth out the intake itself. The more smoothly and faster the air can get into the engine, the better. It's all about increasing volumetric efficiency, how quickly you can get air in and out. Again, it's just a glorified air pump, so this is simply just trying to get more air, or at least the same volume of air in more smoothly. In most cases, we hope it increases horsepower, maybe a little bit of torque. All right, so this I'm kind of surprised with. This is the actual intake tube, and I thought it was going to be plastic. Ta-da! It's not. Really solid welds, that textured powder coating all the way through, and you guys can't see it, but the threads in that little booger, you kind of see it there. Threads have been cleaned, so you don't have to worry about binding up or anything like that. You guys can't see anything in there, can you? Honestly, this is super gnarly. Aside from it being metal, it is, I'm going to say, aluminum, just based off of the width of the welds. If those were a little bit smaller, I'd say that this was potentially some other type of metal, steel, or otherwise. But this is a even diameter all the way through, or mandrel bent, I guess would be a safe way of calling it. Aluminum, powder coated, and yeah, this thing's pretty solid. I'm pleasantly surprised with this. I was not expecting to get nope. Okay, so again, it's budget friendly, but a little bit of a gouge in the finish. I don't know if that's going to be on the top or bottom. We'll soon find out. Not a deal breaker by any means, considering this thing was only like $160. I don't see any issues there. If that's the only blemish that I'm looking at, an otherwise solid piece of metal, yeah, I'm cool with that. Slight nick there on the end, so, but that'll be covered up by a hose adapter clamp of some sort. So no real complaints. I mean, it's still round. All the fittings are nicely welded on. The powder coating is, again, pretty solid. Will help keep intake temps down. Yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised by this. All right. So that's all in there. What we got here? More heat wrap. So it says, dear buyer, please make sure peel off the white color protection wrap and install the rubber trim around the edges before install the stainless steel cover. So I'm going to go ahead and say that this is probably not made anywhere in the States. English is a little fuzzy, but hey, I'm not a grammar fanatic or Nazi or anything like that. It's just letting you know that this has to be removed. The protective cover that's on here. See how, yep, laser film. So what this tells me is that this part was machine cut in some way, shape, or form, and the protective film on the back of it is protecting it against corrosion and otherwise bad juju. Color me curious. That is a shroud for something. I would assume the filter is based off of its shape, but yeah, I'm totally doing an install video on this because I really want to see how this works. I really want to see it put together. The picture looked pretty straightforward. Had a box type shield, heat shield, to go around the filter, and but I don't recall seeing this thing. Curious. Some more bracketry. Now this is the actual box itself, or at least part of the box, I should say. Has to be pieced together in some way, shape, or form. I'm so sorry about the camera handling skills. Forgive me. Again, same powder coating. Cleared out threads for the bolt holes. Again, I apologize, can't really see that. Oh, there we go. Ta-da. There's a bit of the bracket. Another bracket piece. So that bolts together. That's where all the miscellaneous hardware comes in. That, I'm assuming, bolts down to the body, and then we'll see how that plays out. I'm gonna leave it in there so it doesn't get all beat up. And last and certainly not least, our last little piece of the heat shield. So we can go ahead and assume that these panels, this is where I get the heat wrap, not the heat wrap, the insulation. So those shiny little bits of heat insulation, I'm assuming these are probably going to go on the outside, just to keep that air intake area as cool as possible. And last and certainly not least, the filter, I'm assuming is what's in here, and I would have assumed correctly. Well, for any of you guys that have seen the K&N filter, look familiar? Doesn't have the stamp on it, but man, that looks familiar. I have purchased a handful of K&N intake filters in my lifetime. I've owned 13 different vehicles, and I'm not old enough to have 13 different vehicles. It's pretty pathetic. Nonetheless, that looks eerily like a K&N filter, just without the stamp there on the bottom, or top, depending on who you talk to. Pre-oiled. You can see the reflection down there. It has been oiled. Clamps on there. Yeah, I'm gonna say that's pretty solid. So there you have it. That is our 2016 Hyundai Veloster Turbo intake for the 1.6 turbo 4-banger, and the short ram intake from Airflow Dynamics, or AFIAO, according to the font on the box, nonetheless. That's all the bits there. There are a couple more bits there. It's going into that next. Video will be up. Oh, give me a few days on it. I'm gonna go ahead and put everything together now, but I'll do my best to get it done and taken care of soon. So, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the install video.